And you called Rogan as the campaign between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump was winding down. You called Rogan, I think, and you said, "Are you going to endorse or not?" Tell me about that conversation.
I was flying to Mar-a-Lago, me and Frank Fertitta, for election night.
What did he say?
He said, "I'm just busy. I'm this, I'm that."
I'm busy.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm busy."
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Perhaps one of the videos that I did not want to make because I'll be honest with you, I feel like lately Rogan is one of those guys that you do not want to be cool with. At least if you are not one of the top elites or someone that's hiding something super shady. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I feel bad for Rogan because the more that I look at what his podcast has become, the sadder it gets. I remember a time when I used to just listen to the Joe Rogan Experience at work, and it would just make the day so bearable because literally his podcast had a variety like of absolutely everything. Or you want to know about aliens? I'm sure you can go look something up. You want to know about mass surveillance? Go look something up. You want to know about comedy? Go look something up. You want to know about the desert? You want to know about jungles? You want to know about absolutely everything? Rogan more than likely spoke to someone that has extensive knowledge on the subject. And look, that's essentially why Joe Rogan was popular, because he just had the audience of everyone. Everybody wanted to watch his podcast. It was entertaining, but something happened down the line, and I think this specifically starts it up.
And he had done the podcast, and the podcast was blowing up, pulling huge numbers. And I texted him and said, "Are you voting for Trump?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Then endorse. Why have you not endorsed him?"
Now, I will be honest with you, it can't just be that, right? Because prior to this, Rogan was already starting to build a monopoly on comedy. And I think that's possibly the best way to describe it, because once he built the comedy mothership, it's like he pulled every single comedian out of the States and into Texas. Clearly, there was a lot more to it because he was also starting to push back on the whole COVID guidelines. But overall, it just felt like Rogan was someone that was drastically changing. And it's like you just couldn't put a stop to it. I'm not one to be political here, but it does definitely feel like Rogan will continue to just have guests that are just trying to spread their propaganda or their talking points or, their promotions. Rogan is no longer someone that is leading with integrity. Rogan no longer pushes back unless it's someone like one of his good friends.
It's all just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same shit has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting fucking politicians slurp on kids. All of our fucking money goes to Israel and they're using it to fucking genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out. And it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is amongst us and our religious leaders are fucking talking about bullshit at the poll. It's just like, what is going, I don't know, man.
In all reality, just like me, there are millions of people that see right through it, and it really sucks seeing that the podcast has fallen off so much. We had Joe Rogan literally tell Theo Von that he just had to get off his meds because he was losing it. And Theo Von, whether you believe it or not, whether you look into this stuff or not, Theo Von is coming from a place where he actually has suspicions or he just has these beliefs only to be shut down harshly, only to be basically told that, dude, you're fucking crazy. Like, come on, just get off your meds and all you need to do is just come hang out with the boys. Meanwhile, we have someone like the vice president, and this is one of the things that I was thinking about. Just a few years ago, having someone like the president or vice president on a podcast just casually in the middle of the week was something unheard of. Like, don't you have better things to do with your time than to be on a podcast just spreading your talk points? It's kind of crazy too just how casual JD sounds during the whole interview. Like, he is just one of your friends and you guys are just chopping it up like nothing's wrong, like nothing's happening in the world. You're literally taking over 2 hours sitting in a room just talking about nonsense. And I say it's nonsense because throughout the whole entire time, JD like I said, whether you like to believe it or not, JD is just throwing his points of view at you, and for the millions of people that are listening to the podcast, only for Rogan to not push back one single bit.
Is this idea that Donald Trump, was sort of, I've even heard people say he was blackmailed into this
Yeah,
by
a
the
lot of
Israelis.
people think that.
That's not true, dude.
No?
It's just not true. I've seen the decision making up close. Again, whether you agree or disagree with our negotiation, or whether you agree or disagree with the decision to launch the campaign Epic Fury to begin with, the idea that Donald Trump is being like blackmailed is crazy to me.
And to his credit, he does do a little bit more pushback than he usually does, but overall, it still feels like a shadow of his former self. Like, I genuinely remember Rogan's heated debates with people because they would be making opinions and guesses almost on stuff that they had no clue what they were talking about. There's literally a list that you can go look up on YouTube of channels covering this extensively, of Rogan going off on people because they're talking about stuff they have no clue about. The perfect example is literally Candace Owens when she was on the podcast and Rogan and her had a debate over this. Meanwhile, you have JD here telling him that the files were not as bad as everybody made them out to be. The only issue was that, they didn't send them out on time. Like, that's his biggest point of all of this. And Rogan does little to no pushback. Rogan doesn't ask any questions. Rogan doesn't have the spine that he used to have, if he ever. And the biggest reason why I feel this change is because he is tied up to Dana White so bad that he essentially has to listen to what Dana says. And of course, if you know Dana White, you know that he is also super tied up with Donald Trump. Eventually, it's just like Rogan is stuck in a predicament here where he no longer gets to be the curious, laid-back, funny dude that he used to be. And now he has to pretend to be that in order to get more talking points across. Honestly, it's just super depressing seeing how this podcast has fell off, because just even 5 years ago, it was still somewhat enjoyable watching it. Not even just enjoyable, but like, it was just one of those things that had felt like it was an interesting watch. There was always something refreshing. But nowadays, if you tune in, it's just the same repetitive points over and over again. And when you really think about it, back then, Rogan had literally said that he would never have any of the presidential candidates on his podcast because he refused to help them out. He refused to create an energy of biasness or even a platform for them to be helped. He wanted them to win based off of merit almost. But I will say this, the way that his politics have changed are literally night and day. Back then, he literally had Bernie on his podcast and they talked about it and they talked about his policies and he agreed with stuff that Bernie said. And then literally from, 1 year to the other, he had completely switched his mindset and his standing point just because of the pandemic. And rightfully so. A lot of people had a lot of pushback during the pandemic because they felt like they were literally attacking their rights. They were literally imprisoning them. And it's like they didn't believe that it was a public safety hazard here. It was just a way to keep everybody in line, in control. Listen, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm a skeptic or I'm into all these conspiracies. But the truth of the matter is, Rogan is extremely compromised and there is absolutely nothing that he can do to get out of this position. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me today. Goodbye.